once again. I am, of course, your host, Rambo Hustle. And today, not only will we be discussing the Eminem Music to be Murdered by Deluxe album, but we will also be discussing the concept of deluxe albums. Are we being scammed into listening to more music? It's a message that is relevant to their brand. That doesn't really mean that the music in itself connects, which is why we get a lot of artists such as Snoop, which we'll get to, that say that Eminem doesn't land on their top 10. If you really look at Eminem's last decade of music, it doesn't really live up to his first decade and how we introduce Eminem to the world. The truth is, when we all heard Eminem for the first time, there was nothing quite like him out. There was nobody that was doing that. The shock value, the trolling of popular culture in a genre that was based on facts and is based on authenticity and was based on real life tales, even though we would get more personal and more in depth into the upbringing of who Marshall Mathers is. His introduction to us was very colorful, was very animated, and was something that was almost targeting the kids. The problem is, once you reach a certain age, and then thus should be targeting your age group, the music he was making then doesn't really transfer into his age group very well now. Rhyme and patterns that nobody's ever heard before, and in syllables and consonants, and say as many words as you possibly can. By the time a TikTok video ends, Eminem takes the cake. Eminem by far has the crown, and there's nobody that really can compete with that. The truth is, though, outside of social media challenges, nobody really cares. Something that you could live your life to. Can you imagine somebody that lives their life to Eminem records? What does that even look like? Is it everything in 3 times speed? What is it? What does it mean? Today, I really want to take a deeper dive, a deeper look into this album and see where he was successful and where he was not. Now, we kick off the thing with obviously a new intro that says nothing, provides no background, and really leaves us at nothing as we enter into Black Magic, which is essentially a record about a girl. The problem is that no matter how many girl records we get featuring Skylar Grey, we've never heard of Eminem having any a love entanglement or relationship with anyone outside of Mariah Carey, who, by the way, destroyed him on this record. And we just have nothing to relate to this to. You know, when you look at artists like Kanye, like a Jay-Z, like all of these artists that are very visible and actually engage with fans and are out in the public day to day, while you may be having this reality that you're talking about in your music, none of us see that. There's actually a line in this project that he says that people mention him to get buzzing, when in reality your last 2 to 3 albums have been buzzing because you mentioned everyone else. I mean, to be honest with you, if you really wanted to shut up and downplay the concept of who this guy is, because I refuse to say his name, you just don't mention his name. And it's interesting that in the same album that you're dissing this guy, a hip-hop icon who you shared labels with, you're also dissing this guy. Not to mention that trolling, what he's famous for, is kind of like your MO. That's kind of like what made you popular. That's kind of how you got on the scene and were be able to be respected to where people then opened up to listen to you rhyme. Well, again, you're still the best at. Now, Alfred Theme is, to me, maybe one of the highlights of the album because the beat and just his rhyme flow and what he's talking about, it doesn't seem bitter. It doesn't seem angry. It doesn't seem overly aggressive. Even though it is, it does still have that Slim Shady LP playfulness that we kind of come to know from Eminem. That we kind of familiarize him with without the concept of, oh, well, I went through all of this and now I'm one of the biggest rappers in the world and I have all the money in the world, and yet for some reason I'm angry at the world and bitter because I don't think I get enough respect. Fam, you get all the respect. Or what you don't get is respect for making enjoyable, good, just chill music, because you don't make enjoyable, chill music. As somebody who was a huge Nas fan growing up, and one of my favorite records by Nas is Book of Rhymes from the Godson album, the idea that you would, I don't know if you if you twisted DJ Premier's arm to make this trap beat, just so you could rap on it like everyone else raps on it. Listen, I know that maybe that's sarcasm and depressing to hear DJ Premier produce this, not because it's trash, but because it's trash. It's trash to have somebody that could have gave you an amazing boom bap, like real hip hop record in the essence, something that I don't know, we haven't heard since the Infinite EP, and I don't know why you refuse to let people into just getting real bars. Maybe that's what we want from Eminem. Maybe what we want from Eminem is for him to take us back to what hip hop used to be and actually give us some real authentic music that isn't trolling, that isn't goofy, that isn't animated, and that actually speaks to the soul. It seems like Eminem is more set and more focused on thinking that that's going to make them like his music. It's not really how it works. Now, moving right along, my favorite bitch is a record that honestly, it starts off with the verse and it just sounds like another Eminem record where he's just trying to prove how good of a rapper he is. And then suddenly, this guy comes on, and you think this is a hit record because everything he touches sounds like a hit record. What happens between when he's rapping and when he's singing? To me, if I was to choose or put the sequence together, this record, both in content and sound, sounds like a record that you could open up a new album by adding some extra records into it. This doesn't even do that. This is literally an entire new batch of songs. You might as well just have said music to be murdered by again. I don't understand the concept of doing the deluxe. And in this, of course, we get a Dr. Dre verse, which is rare, and I would assume that Dr. Dre had a pretty big hand on the production of this album as a whole, but maybe not, because to be honest with you, there's very little moments where I feel like the production holds up to the Dre sound. Cole Bennett over at Lyrical Lemonade, who has done amazing work of finding talent, nurturing talent, and exposing talent to the world. I do think that him linking up with Cole Bennett is an amazing marriage in regards of visuals, and really has taken Eminem's concept of lyrics and what he talks about and how he puts his words together and put it into a visual that wasn't dark or depressing, which, historically they have always been, and his videos have never really been, outside of his lead singles, have never been something super dark or something super bright or happy or that was at least entertaining to watch. And while I do think that Nat is a great first presentation for this album, if I had to look at the whole track listing and the video itself, the only thing more annoying than Nat's is the concept of a rapper that can't seem to let go of the fact that he has to prove how good of a rapper he is. Now, I do love some of the bars on this, and his lines are always great. Again, I don't want to take anything away from M's rapping ability. But again, the concept of just making a good record that people can live their life to is practically just like unheard of at this point from Marshall. So now to finalize the album, we get Seuss, which is the record that he name drops Snoop, MGK, and Tekashi. He likes to pander. Snoop thing really surprised me because they basically on the same label under the same guy. And the concept that he would even address that, considering that Snoop specifically said that, listen, it's basically just the factor of, if it wasn't for Dr. Dre, we wouldn't know who Eminem is. And to be completely honest with you, whether that is a fact or not, based on how everything played out, it is a fact. And we know that Dr. Dre makes classic albums, and he not only makes classic albums, but he makes classic artists, which is why Kendrick went that direction, because he knew that aligning himself with the greatest puts you right alongside that playing field. Now, Discombobulated is probably the one record outside of the Dre feature that actually has signs and hints of the Dre sound, and that really captures that West Coast classic piano-driven swing melody concept of music that we've come to know from the West Coast, and that I've always said that basically any artist outside of the West Coast with a West Coast sound can blow up, because that sound is so, it's strong, it's melodic, it's musical, and it allows your voice to be heard, so people get familiar with your vocals and what your voice sounds like. Now, again, listen, I love Eminem's music, but primarily I love Eminem's music when I was growing up because it was so different and it was so original. The thing is now, again, like a lot of the like the Kid Cudi album review, do we want artists to change their styles or do we want them to stay in the same place? Personally, myself, I think it's important for an artist to evolve. Something that I feel like Eminem just hasn't been able to do. As a long-time, career-long fan of your music, I mean, I kind of want to know what's going on in your life. You're already height of your career or maybe surpass that. You have all the respect of everyone, and maybe you don't have the respect of 14, 15-year-olds, and like, who cares? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you have hip-hop's respect. You have hip-hop attention, and you have surpassed anything that anybody ever thought that you would accomplish in hip-hop. So in my eyes, I want to know what's going on in your life for real. I don't really care to continue this charade of trolling pop culture and trolling mumble rappers and making a mockery of everything, when in reality, you're really just making a mockery of yourself by not allowing us to know who you are. A lot like Lil Wayne, how he came in, but the only difference is Lil Wayne has an excuse. Lil Wayne was a superstar by the age of 14, so his whole entire life is entertainment, where you didn't have that luxury and unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, landed into the music industry later. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be getting, let me put it to you this way, you have the ability to sell records no matter what you put on the album. So I think for a lot of us, the fact that you continue to create this troll-based, hyper, let me see how fast I can rap just for the hell of it kind of music, instead of actually giving us something organic, something internal, something authentic to you, makes us feel like we as fans are getting played, and like the last decade of music just seems like you're just trying to create something that people will like instead of creating something that you yourself like, that you yourself feel like you're giving your best and you're giving your transparency to fans, because that's what we want at this point. We don't want the facade. We don't want the charades. We want authentic Marshall Mathers, and we want to know what your life is like now, or what the message is that you feel like we should be getting. And although I'm sure that appealing to the younger generation has worked well and has driven some success pockets and the longevity of your career, I think you're way past the point where you should be catering to anybody but your own taste and your own message and what you want your legacy to remembered by, which I assume is not a decade of subpar music. That being said, guys, Rambo Hustle with the Hip Hop Report once again. I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas today, and I hope you got everything that you possibly wanted and desired. And also, I hope that you guys have been working on yourselves internally, emotionally, and mentally, because this next year is going to be very important for our progression, not only in music, but as people. So with that being said, Rambo Hustle, make sure you hit the bell, drop us a comment, let us know what you think. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at the Hip Hop Report Podcast, and of course we'll be having more podcast content generated this next year when we tap more into general day-to-day conversations and not just album